Welcome everyone to another quick live stream. Here some more warning. Previous live stream we upgraded the BIOS in the name of science with our 5950X, and this time actually this is the one. Just took it out for fingers and thumbs crossed for RMA, which is also mostly why I wanted to give a second warning. I noticed, so ironically, I only noticed, I should not have upgraded the BIOS, right? I mentioned this initially, the system was amazing. Shouldn't have touched it, should have known better, but YouTube creator and stuff in the name of science. Ironically, I said this before, I only upgraded that for this AGESA USB connectivity. And as I'm running here my portable Road Warrior SSD, even on this workstation, yes, USB 3 attached, BetterFS, Linux, it's fine. And also the camera, obviously, Elgato 4K cam link here in the meantime for all the YouTube creator craze. And I thought, yeah, maybe because with the previous hiccups, we had already previously ASUS BIOS that had significantly less memory overclocking on an, was it the ASUS X470i or was it, no, it was actually this one, the X570 workstation Ace. But yeah, with all the history, I was like, yeah, better not touch it. And I should have listened to my consciousness there. Because the thing is, not only did it obviously very expensively burn this channel A memory lane without overclocking, overvolting this. Actually, the CPU undervolted. People on overclockernet, of course, we are the usual moron here of knowing nothing. But no, this was undervolted. I usually run this undervolted, this one like minus 0.0375 or something for a little bit turbo boosting. But the crazy thing is, so not only did it burn the A memory channel, I hope I get an RMA, I keep you updated, but I get more USB issues, right? Previously, I didn't even know I have USB issues. I only wanted to update this in case of, because nothing is more annoying. I'm somewhere at home or somewhere else and USB dies here, if I remote secure shell there at night or stuff, especially in a lockdown, you're not allowed to go out at midnight and then you can't go to your office and reset this. But I had this live, so I'm not making this shit up, previous more live, so I had at least two or more times Camlink failure here. I never had this before. We live streamed here for months. The only thing we usually have is drop frames due to Vodafone Toxis failing cable infrastructure here in Germany, Berlin. But here's this retire capture of universal request broker. So of the Linux kernel, this is mostly this one here all. I never had this before. I didn't touch any hardware. I only upgraded the BIOS. Well, only touched the hardware then for swapping memory stuff. But yeah, this is so crazy. So stop, my recommendation and advice, stop beta testing, because the crazy thing is compiling the data, because AMD is like, yeah, sent us the BIOS version precisely there of the motherboard and motherboard model and stuff. And I opened this today, it's like seriously, beta version, no kids. Ladies and gentlemen, playing along at home, no, because also not only you only waste your time, do something game, do some open source creative stuff, YouTube channel, enjoy time with your friends and family. No, don't stop this beta testing. Stop it for Windows, stop it for Apple's macOS, stop it for especially bloody BIOS versions. And the irony is, the previous version already, this one was advertised as fixed USB connectivity issue, made it worse for me again. And this one, of course, it also fixes, again, USB connectivity issues. Like, yeah, of course, all this stuff have usually improved system performance and compatibility. It's like, yeah, YOLO, no. Often it made it worse for me with my sample size 2, ASUS X470i and X570 WS Ace. Some BIOS, many of these BIOS versions actually since the one it came with, which I think, which one? Yeah, I think it was like this one. So everything between 1302 and whatever was actually worse, huge drama. Previous live stream even called ASUS, even captured that here and replayed this hilarious support. And this is also why you should not spend your time and money and also your hardware, right, only for this bloody random beta testing of, yeah, this was not even beta, right? Its final release improves everything, USB connectivity issues, like, yeah, thank you very much, burning memory lanes. And of course, ASUS will not give you a new CPU. Even in my case, where I couldn't even flush, this is also the issue, right? Maybe they allow flashing the previous version for beta version. I will not try that, no. I have better things to do in my life, like writing a microkernel. But in my case, I asked them, I was begging them on a phone, previous video, I've recorded that. I was begging them, please give me the previous BIOS back, because all the new versions have significantly worse memory overclocking. Maybe this was even still with, I need to check the video date, maybe this was still with this 3590 and not with the 5950, 3950. And yeah, ASUS will not, this board was, usually it retails for $299 a euro plus minus. I think I brought it for $309 or so, because some quarters ago it was a little bit more. They will, in my case, they even wanted to charge me for, because like flashing the previous BIOS to improve, restore my memory clocks previously. They wanted even to charge me. It's like, yeah, like if you want, you can send it to us, quote, previous phone call. And they would even charge for flashing the BIOS. Of course, I helped myself. I don't need to pay ASUS support to flash the previous BIOS version. We patched flash ROM. Previous video patched this ourselves or flashed this ourselves from Linux. Even worked, risking the board. Why have I risked this? A worst case, I would have soldered there the EEPROM off and flashed it myself with a external either clip-on or solder there some lines to flash that. The $299 was worth that. For me, in general, I wouldn't necessarily advise you either to flash this with flash ROM yourself, especially if you patch that. But ASUS will definitely not give you $999 or so plus. Even right now, due to the market shortage, I got this for $999 some week before Christmas. Right now they are even in Germany even 1,100 something, maybe in the US too. So right now even $150 euro more. And I'm really curious to see. So far there was one response from AMD for my RMA request, like, yeah, provide us more information. A photo. I don't know why they need a photo of this installed on the motherboard, but I did that. With the serial number, they wanted the serial number visible. I was like, yeah, if I send it in, they see the serial number, no. But anyway, told them the story of troubleshooting. I hope that is positive. But yeah, even with this, also in my opinion, this was not my fault, right? Just I wanted to see how the Infinity Fabric, if that can clock higher now, but the voltages were not higher. The CPU was undervolted. The memory in spec, well, 1.5 volt, but that was in spec for, well, kind of sort of maybe overclocking or something from the AMD Ryzen. But the modules were rated, and I know a lot of people run memory because these were, I don't have this here, this Trident Neo set or something, world's fastest Ryzen optimized. But yeah, this is also, you are your own warranty, right? You cannot rely on ASUS or AMD or any other vendor to replace your stuff if this BIOS stuff goes wrong. And the only thing is the CPU is still working, not perfectly of course, but still usable, which is also hilarious. And fun fact, last but not least, I think theoretically you could repair that. I think because everything works except even perfectly, as far as I found. The only thing is memory channel A, which I lose some capacity and a little bit of dual channel memory performance. It is livable though. It's of course not ideal, but better than completely burned. So not all is lost, but you cannot be so lucky, right? It could be that it burns even more. And this is also, yeah, because the memory channels should be in the I/O die, I would guess theoretically doing this Der Bauer style, deleting this in Lewis Rossmann style hot air soldering, I guess probably you could hot air solder off the CC axis and the I/O die. So I would guess very theoretically, I don't know what other stuff like cryptographic keys or IDs say, hardwire in there and program. If that is not the case, like Apple style of serial locking that, I guess this could be repairable. Of course not with my skills. I don't have a X-ray microscopes of what was Louis Rossmann's thing of Sumar or so, whatever that machine was. But even that was not for that. This was of course for whole big ball grid array Intel CPUs and NVIDIA AMD Intel GPUs. Yeah, I don't know what AMD also does with that. That would be really curious to know if you work at AMD or have any knowledge, if they have means to reuse that, because if they ARM ASUS, would be interesting to know what they actually do with that, because the two CXXs theoretically with a shortage of supply, maybe that would even be financially viable to refurbish those. But I don't know. People also on overclockers.net with seeing the previous video and calling me moron, incompetent idiot who doesn't know BIOS. It's like, yeah, AMD and ASUS might be interested in details. I'm not so sure because engineering resources, investigating this, you need to delete this, you need to... I don't think it has an error log. I don't think they have the eFuse or Flash kind of error log in there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but theoretically this would of course be possible, but probably something more like IBM mainframe kind of style. But very theoretically you could of course have an hardware log in there. I would think it has one, but correct me if I'm wrong. And what can an AMD, people also always, in my opinion, a little bit naive of AMD and ASUS are interested. No, they are not your friends, they're only interested in making money. There's not much making money with investigating a partially dead CPU. And in my opinion, unless they have a flash-like hardware log hidden there for themselves of last used BIOS settings, which even that would be probably worthless, because in the meantime I booted with memory channel B, so I'm not sure if it would still have any useful log left. But even if they delete this and unsolder the I/O die and investigate this with a raster electron microscope or stuff like that, the only thing they would probably find are some burned memory lanes. Okay, maybe they can investigate. They have already been thin. That could of course be that, depending on the place of the wafer. Some are thinner. There's also the silicon lottery in general. Oh, so yeah, wafer with G, right? This of course, and then depending on, that's of course dual Vega, but you get the idea. Some could have been, also maybe this was not the smartest idea to click on there, because all I wanted was an image of that, but whatever, I guess. And this is a silicon lottery. Of course, some are a little bit sharper, some depending on the alignment of the moon and the stars and so on, the day of the week and the purification of chemicals used and so on. This is also why you have some defects, right? And yeah, maybe some, it could also be only one, right? It doesn't need to be that all memory driver there are burned through, because what I see is, if I have the situation is different, if as I said previously, my investigation, what I previously never did, to my surprise, the board doesn't even turn on without memory plugged in, without CPU plugged in. That is rather surprising. And there's also a difference. So the CPU still sees some memory, because if I plug something in, it doesn't post even mixed channel B and channel A. And so there must still be some address and data lines intact, maybe only one or two burned through, but certainly nothing that even Louis Rossmann could fix in this scale of ball grid array stuff there. That's probably mostly it. All right, theoretically I could also, as we have some people tuning in, given that people on Foronics and Overclocker.net think we are such incompetent morons, some more ideas from me, because we are so stupid. I've seen previously some CPUs, like maybe even some Spark Station previous years. I find this rather low-tech that if you don't have memory, the BIOS doesn't boot, in my opinion. it should be possible. These CPUs have vast amounts of cache, 32 megabyte of cache, I think 64 L3 and the rest L2 and L1. This 64 meg of L3 cache, in my opinion, this BIOS should be fully capable of running out of the CPU cache without using any memory. That would be, in my opinion, pretty cool to have BIOS bring up and enablement without any memory. Also, if I don't have any memory plugged in, I think the error behavior is slightly different. Then I'm not sure if it, maybe don't quite remember if the postcodes come a little bit later or something. But anyway, so yeah, it's not all address and data lanes are fully dead, but some probably at least, because even with the lowest frequencies, nothing post on memory channel A. Yeah, so that's mostly it. Also, right, other people, of course, Reddit is of course only just one other data point of other people being less than amused of buggy mess of Infinity Fabric clock 1900 years have a favor stay below that and such until further notice, and otherwise 1800 very good there. But yeah, so we are not the only one. Other people also think it's a bloody buggy mess. Although I would say this is of course overclocking, right? So you also maybe you can't call it bloody mess if it's overclocking and certainly pushing the edge. I also, because some reporting says AMD is still working of potentially allowing higher Infinity Fabric clocks for more users. Not entirely sure if that is true, because it's also sure they update the AGESA and improve stability, compatibility and everything. But there is of course more money. This stuff is already sold and it's selling like hotcakes, and certainly more demand than supply. And it's certainly, as usual, more financial viable for companies like AMD, Intel and Nvidia to work on the latest and greatest next stuff. So also, if this is a silicon limitation, they're around or over 1800. I don't really see that some future AGESA magically. Sure, there's always some tuning, because the DDR4 tuning is actually rather complex. Not sure if we have some graphs for that DDR4 training, because it's actually doing some relatively fancy training there. Do we have some eye image here of maybe not, but yeah, anyways, it's actually rather complex, and yeah, something like of that sort. And it's true, there's always something of tuning that a tiny little bit, but this is probably already pretty tuned, and I don't see how this, if there is just this silicon frequency limitation, how this should magically significantly improve. Anyway, one last check on the comments here. Something with would actually be better if you post in English, though, honestly, but thanks anyway. Master of the console says there are a lot of issues with VR headsets AMD X570 because of this crappy AGESA updates. That's interesting. As I said, to me anyway, the whole AGESA stuff, also I had their significant problems with previous AGESA versions with as simple things as memory clocking there of previously with the original 1302 version reaching way higher stable memory frequencies here of 1302, right? Yeah, so much to tuning that one change there, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and trial and error, which is also the topic of this video. Don't test this. Sure, if you have some VR headset, then you have some USB connectivity issue, you're certainly desperate trying to get this to work, and then similar to me here, testing each BIOS update in the hope that eventually this will fix again. But also recurring reminder that this tech is super complex, here as seen in such DDR4, PCIe training and timing, and of course standards like USB, super complex, right, with all the power delivery and so on, which is why we still have bugs and quirks and stuff, and Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, depending on the moon alignment or weather, where you have your smartphone. I mean, this is also, many people don't know that, but of course, all these radio frequencies can at times, you have it close to your PC and get a phone call or something, and could always be the one last bit that bit flips or something. So, master of the console says in the case HP headset, HP works, specific USB port and a specific controller, yeah, stuff like this. Anyway, last but not least, recurring theme here, don't beta test this for these vendors. Sure, they test something, but there's also a difference between sample size 1 or I hope ASUS. I would hope they have their sample size at least 10. Certainly they don't try to flash 100 boards and CPUs, but I would expect from a AAA company like ASUS, MSI, Gigabyte and so on, that they at least test like 10, but 10 is of course something entirely different than 100,000 or 10,000 at least, maybe 100,000, probably hopefully worldwide. And yeah, maybe at least wait a month or so and see if there's some reporting. Although even in my case, I didn't post it to Reddit or AMD yet, not to have the next flame of how incompetent we are of running BIOS crap. Raven says, AGESA BIOS updates tanked RAM overclocking performance on 13950X and ASUS. Interesting. So this is exactly, I mean, I had a similar board, right? This was exactly my case, 3950X. Also, this is right now the 5950X because I wait what AMD says to RMA. Right now running and streaming from 3950X. But this was exactly my case, right? Everything between 1302 if it helps you. And in my case, previous video, I downgraded this. My workstation board doesn't have some downgrade thing, which I find also hilarious. I then just after 4, 5, 6, 8 hours of investigation, programming and trial and error, I flashed that back from Linux with flash ROM. Previous video, because we are incompetent morons here who know nothing about anything. But yeah, this was reproducible for me. As well, interesting that you had this as well, and also of course the BIOSes are 99% similar, right? It's not like for one board they have something magically whatsoever. Sure, there are a handful of boards that have very specific additional overclocking features, but otherwise 99% of all the AGESA and other surrounding EFI functionality is of course 99.99% the same. Otherwise some wording, some quirks and features, and certainly some boards like some ASUS board has this dynamic all-core boost overclocking and yet still PBO switching things that I'm not sure I would trust my workstation stuff with that. But anyway, Raven says there wasn't an issue, motherboard Windows overvolting boards, but showing lower voltage to get performance, it's over. Wasn't there? Yes, this is also the problem, right? I in general made the previous video, I have real problems from my, even just from an outside look, I have real quality issues as a software 20 years full stack developer. Even from the top level view, all this option behavior and auto quirks and update behavior does not look the most sophisticated to me. And yeah, I saw in some other YouTubers that they mention some boards doing some tricks. And in my case, I've run after this update with undervolt offset minus 0.0375 or something previous video. Sure, the memory voltage was 1.5, but that worked before. I didn't run it constantly. I previously ran it with 1.4 because I have this paired with other not as high performance memory. Previous video, the 64 gig into modules, so 32. Previous video, what is it, Corsair. This is why, yes, not the highest performance, but we are Linux developers, we need this for Rust and Cargo. So previously I've run this for months with 1.4 volt, which is in spec for the Corsair, and the G-Skill are 1.5 rated. Sure, this is high, but I see on the internet many people run stuff with 1.5, even some with 1.6. And again, it was previously working. And if something, it could very well be that some auto magic posting stuff. It could be that it didn't DDR. Also, yeah, stuff that you don't find on other creators saying that it could be that this DDR training didn't train, and then this board automatically tried to test this post loop of doing it again and again, a second and third time. Maybe they increase voltages, maybe, I don't know, I don't have the source code. Certainly would be amazing if this should also be open source for experts to see what's going on and fix bugs and features. I can only speculate that this post loop of doesn't train, let's try harder, maybe increase the voltage. I don't know, maybe I should someday attach a multimeter or digital logic analyzer and maybe probe that. Maybe that is something for another video in some months or year to come. Certainly not on this expensive board and CPU, but on something else. Which is also why you would want this open source, right? If this is open source, you can take a look. Otherwise, you can attach a digital voltmeter, or better yet, a digital scope, and long-term sample that of the whole post-process. With all fun stuff we could do if we would have more time and money. Speaking of which, Raven writes, recently had RAM die. Oh wow, I never had that. So faulty RAM, but now that I think maybe it happened shortly after an AGESA update. Wow, that is crazy. Thankfully my memory still works, and thankfully I had here, as Linux developer and YouTube creator, I said this in the previous video, I was considering auctioning this 3950X on eBay. But then I thought I don't want to get scammed and like shipping it somewhere and then money requested there on PayPal or scams like this. I thought, okay, it's not worth it. I keep it here for reference and testing, and thankfully to that I have the 3950X back in there. Previously I had this in the server, and I had the spare 2700, so from all the previous YouTube build videos here, which certainly helps to have some board. But this is also not normal users. Usually they have one high-end board. It's certainly pretty privilege and luxury here to have another board and another memory and another CPU, even a high-end CPU. To become normal users would not even, well, they could borrow a CPU from their friend, but yeah, good, like, hey, friend, can I have your CPU? My board died, or CPU or stuff. I need to test something and burn that too. It's like, yeah, which is also full circle. Don't test this for the vendors. Save your time and money. Also, don't beta test Microsoft, Apple, and other fun stuff. So yeah, that's it for this video. As usual, with all the discussion summary longer than 30 minutes. That's it for this video. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And I hope to see you soon for even more amazing stuff, and hopefully an AMD replace 1550X to come.